Effectively, our artworks are mini billboards or advertising campaigns. So why wouldn't you make a comment about something? I tried to come into this year being apolitical, but you can't. Like a First Nations person wakes up with politics at the fore every day until sovereignty is rightfully returned. Then every day you go into battle, and people do it in various ways. I'm just lucky to now have a platform with art to be able to advertise my sentiment.
So let me now, with great pleasure, announce the winner of the 2022 Archibald Prize, Blak Douglas, for his portrait, Karla Dickens, titled Moby Dickens.
This painting represents 20 years of taking the risk of pursuing a dream, of surrendering normalised employment. I'm sure many of my artist colleagues can relate to that. To proudly represent a legion of creatives, consistently dealt the rough end of the stick, unfortunately.
Who did it? I'm so proud of you, Adam. Just for you to include me in the mud, acknowledging everybody up here on Bundjalung country that has gone through so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Karla Dickens is a dear friend of mine who I originally met on our residency in Dubbo. That was the first time I really heard of Karla. I always admired her work. And so finally we got to be in adjacent motel rooms and hang out in Dubbo for a week. And ever since then, we just remained close. It's just basically like my sister that I never had. She used a great metaphor this morning. It's like the whole of Lismore has a vibe like a breakup. You're heartbroken, but you know you're not going to get back together. Pretty amazing. We know that art is a fantastic remedial practice for people with mental health. Then if that doesn't warrant the understanding of an emergency situation, then I don't know what will. I had these two whopping canvases come my way, and then I was faced with the opportunity of either this one and sticking to a head, or taking advantage of fitting exactly in the criteria of the Archibald's measurements. That's the height of the water in the painting. So the water is 2 meters high, and it was the best way to effectively convey the height of that water in Lismore by using a elongated canvas, and so it made sense. It was always meant to be about Noah, like the biblical story, 7 days and 7 nights. When Karla told me it was 14 days and 14 nights, that's what penny dropped. Wow, how biblical is that? That's when I got my head back into the Renaissance, a book I've got on Renaissance art. And that's how I stumbled upon Masaccio and that amazing cross that's popping out in that church that he painted that piece. And that was a big inspiration in having Karla popping out of the water. Yeah, I was just trying to create my own Renaissance-esque kind of image, you know? In most of the Renaissance painting, Mary is a byproduct, you know? Mary's over there somewhere. It's always focused on Christ on a cross, and I was looking for that to celebrate the matriarch. You know, you can always look at Mary as the beginning of the condescendence of patriarchy. Elder told me we're coming out of the patriarchal cycle. He told me that several years ago. We're moving into the matriarchal cycle. So that's why I believe everything fell in place for this painting. Everything, that ticked every box. No stone was left unturned in the award of that piece. And that's because those 4 planets aligned just before I won the prize. The analogy is, when water was coming into people's lounge rooms at a rate of a metre in 20 minutes, people are desperately trying to bucket the water out. And so it's just like bucketing this water out, but it's still rising, yeah? And so flip that into the story of the commercial percentage. And as we slave our guts out on artworks, and that just disappears. 50% of that just disappears. I think it's a tidy metaphor. So the portrait also carries 7 sisters dreaming, which is the bands of the grey sky. So there's 7 bands behind Karla. There's always 7 bands in my current paintings. A lot of people have been asking about the line that marks Karla's legs in the water. And so that was kind of a exaggerated meter marker that you see on the side of the creeks. Well, in the past I've always painted just the head because the head's the most important part of the body. All of the previous portraits, even at 2 meters square, I've always imagined memorialising my subjects, because we're way behind the 8 ball in doing so here, in memorialising important First Nations peoples, particularly resistance fighters. And so it's been telling the kids, you know, every park you go to in a country town's got an Anzac obelisk, but there's nothing about the local people or the courageous resistance fighter that led that resistance for however many years. So I decided to memorialise my First Nation subjects by the big head, and imagining that they could make it onto a postage stamp, you know? So it's like my big stamp. That would be a monumental historic first. First First Nations person to have won all 3 prizes. That's what I'm aiming for.